everyone. Hello, and welcome to part two of episode four of the Fab Fatties. Reminder: the title of this one is "We'll Call Your Mom: Confronting the Harm of Fat Shaming Online." Now, here's the thing: someone suggested that the video that they might be referring to was from Alan Roberts. I looked at Alan Roberts' YouTube channel. Granted, this was from like almost a year ago. Um, and I did not see. I went back and I did not see the video that that person was referring to. I could definitely see Alan Roberts, and maybe he deleted it or maybe it was taken down. But if you happen to know what video they're referring to, this apparently 28-minute video responding to a 30-second TikTok of theirs, I would love to see it to get more background on what they're complaining about. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and just continue listening to their rants, and I'm just gonna be responding. So without further ado, let's get into this.
So after a while, I was like, okay, send me the link. And I had already been seeing the comments on Instagram. And I will say my first response with the comments on Instagram was to start yelling back. And I was like, stop feeding the trolls. And then Allie went and fed the trolls for days, okay? But...
And if any of you are watching this, a lot of you have personal info tagged in your bios. I just need you to know that.
Yeah.
Oh, see, Allie is the one that responded to my video and went off. A couple of you saw it. It was on, I think, the second part of the first episode. And she kind of went off on her own tangent, saying I said things that I did not say. Several of you defended me, and I want to thank you for that. Um, but Allie strikes me as someone who would most likely try to track you down. Like, she talks about, oh, you guys have personal info in your bio, just be aware. It's like a weird threat. It's so weird. Like, you are so upset about people responding to something that you put online, and then you give this veiled threat. Like, clearly you don't like. To me, Allie seems to be the one that has the least amount of self-control and the one who probably most needs to get offline. The others, yes, there's still a poor me aspect of it. There's still a oh, come on, this is fat acceptance rhetoric bullshit part to it. But Allie is the one that I think would take it too far. Like, the others seem like they have, day jobs, and then they kind of do this on the side. At least right now, that's how it comes across to me. But Allie seems far more invested in this. They're just it's concerning to me. It's a little concerning. But anyway, curious if you have any opinions on Allie, if you saw those comments back from the video, if you have been able to distinguish her comments from the others, because I know there's no visual on these videos. Very curious to hear your opinions.
It's amazing. It's amazing how bold someone is with their employer tagged. I'm like,
Your employer's
sir,
tagged in your bio.
sir. But
Yeah, it
anyways,
blows my mind how many people just think it's okay to say these things online.
yeah.
Like, you would never say this to my face.
Oh no, absolutely not.
Never.
So then later in the day, I was like, okay, send me the link, and I start watching the video. Now again, because he is very obviously, he just has this one view of who a fat person is. I start listening. I'm like, garbage. All right, like total garbage. Sad that he makes his living this way. But what got me was in the comments. It was obvious that some of the people who are watching and responding to his video have followed me in some capacity. So they knew some of my history. They've known that I had weight loss surgery. They were talking about, like, shame on her. She's had weight loss surgery, how she's celebrating fatness. And I'm like, I'm still fat. And like, it was, I think that was harder for me because then I'm like, okay, these people have seen something about me besides this. They seem to have some sense of who I am as a person, and they are still okay taking in commentary about me that's so negative and joining in on it. And I think
I don't understand her thought process here. They know me, and yet they're still comfortable. Of course, sometimes people get to know you and they like you less. And they're okay watching this negative yes, there are people that I'm sure would love to watch negative commentary on me and judging me. Do you know how many people like looked at Fat Sapphic Bros TikToks on me and commented about it? That's human nature. I don't understand that line of thought. I don't understand it. Like, if people in the comments were like saying some really heinous stuff, and I mean truly heinous, I mean talking like, because there I've seen some comments on some creators' videos that really, on a personal level, take it entirely too far, calling them pigs, saying they deserve to be slaughtered. That whole like shit, that takes it too far for me. That this dehumanization, threats of violence, that sort of thing make me like insanely uncomfortable. And I don't think that that's something I don't think I think that exceeds like normal negative discourse. I think that takes it to an unhealthy level. Looking into you a little bit, they see this TikTok, they go to your page, they look at some of what you're like what you say, and then they find some of what you've done in the past versus this TikTok to be hypocritical, and they comment on that. That's something that I feel is relatively normal within the internet space. It's another thing to track you down, it's another thing to dehumanize you, it's another thing to act with threats of violence or insinuate that violence should be acted upon you. That all takes it too far. Looking into kind of your general background to gain greater context of the uh, TikTok that they're looking at, I don't think is unreasonable. And just because they find out more about you and they get to know you more as a person, doesn't mean that they would automatically be uncomfortable with negative commentary. There's just it's one of those things. Like there have been times when I've commented on, oh, what's this person? What the hell is this? What is this? And then someone gives me context of, oh, this is from they you may not realize this, but they have this such and such illness, and that's what they're referring to in this, not necessarily their fatness. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that, and then at that point I do rethink my initial judgment. But sometimes people can know your background, they can know what you're bringing to the table, and they still disagree with it, and they think you're a hypocrite, and they think some of what you say is absolute bullshit. That's not even just like internet things. That's just kind of public discourse. This can happen in person to person interaction in the real world too, where you just, for the sake of civility, for the sake of keeping the space safe for everyone and free of conflict, you may not comment on it the way you will online, where there isn't that one to one interaction where you're trying to maintain a certain comfort level. People are more honest on the internet, I think, for better or worse, and sometimes not very honest, sometimes they're just inflammatory, but I don't understand that, they know me, they know who I am, and yet they're still comfortable with this negativity of, yeah, so don't tell me that you haven't felt comfortable talking negatively about someone even after you found out stuff about them. Sometimes that finding out stuff about them makes you more pissed off at them. It's such a bonkers way of thinking to me.
That was harder for me than Joe Schmo talking about me. And I was like, ooh, what? I didn't have an emotional reaction. I don't like to feel my feelings. I don't like to feel my feelings. But I was distracted all day, and I think that bothers me. It bothers me that it took my attention and focus. It bothers me that I felt anxiety about it because who knew where I was going to go. I saw how much the viral Instagram had gone. And it did feel like that robbed me of something. It robbed me of my attention that day with my students. It robbed me of just peace of mind. Yeah, and so that annoyed me. And yet I know.
So I understand that that robbed me of my focus, that robbed me of the attention towards my like I understand that that's not really their fault per se. Like, to a certain extent, you have to accept the responsibility that you had with engaging with it. When I was in my beef with Fat Sapphic Road, that was taking a lot of my attention to the point where I didn't like how much I was thinking about it. And that was a contributing factor to me kind of just ending that shit, was because I realized how unhealthy it was becoming for me. And then there was that line that was crossed for me, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm done. Uh so this is one of those things where it's like I'm sorry. I know how uncomfortable that can be when it like you can't stop thinking about it. But at that point you kind of have to disengage. Don't post online for a while, don't engage with the comments. Internet memory is fairly short. Like, it's both forever and also nothing, like, it's over in a flash at the same time. And so I would just say take a break at that point. Don't post so much on social media, or at least not about the topic that was highlighted that was so controversial. Because I don't think it's not like they're like that influencer that abused their dog and spit on their dog, and then they tried to come back, and it's like, what the fuck are you doing? You haven't even shown that your dog is safe. Blah 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 blah. Uh, like that, they're not that kind of person. What they did that spark some backlash? Did that spark some conversation that did not look favorably on them? Yes, but I don't think that people viewed them as despicable. Maybe entitled, maybe delusional, maybe hypocritical, but not despicable. Like there's layers of controversy within the internet, and those that abuse animals or children are always going to be lowest of low, and those are the ones that are going to be remembered the longest. This could have just been a flash in the pan and been over with. It's the continual engaging with it that kind of prolongs the experience. It's just a matter of kind of protecting your peace of mind. Disengage with it. You can't control what other people say or do. If it makes you that uncomfortable, take down the video and get offline for a little while. It'll blow over.
Like, this is just beginning. This is just beginning. If you're going to be, I talked to them about like why has this not happened in the past. I think it's because I just posted pictures of myself online. I haven't really like put out a bunch of fat acceptance messaging in it, or put out content where I'm actively talking about fat bodies. I'm talking about myself, but maybe not using the word fat. And I think that's what really pissed him off, is that we were not feeling ashamed about being fat.
And that's where that's where my immediate reaction was to react. I immediately felt rage. The crying didn't come until actually yesterday. I think it was just like it had been like 2 weeks of the viral Instagram reel, and then this video, and it was just everything kind of piled on top of it. And then also just being very acutely aware of my friends' feelings and how everybody was doing as a group. And my immediate reaction was, I want to defend my friends. So everything that was said about Maria, everything that was said about Alyssa, everything that was said about Rebecca, I'm like, well, no, you have this wrong, you have this wrong. And of course, they don't care. They don't care. Like, exactly like you said, I would be wasting every single second that I would spend defending you guys because they don't care. All they care is about their narrative of fat is bad and this whatever they're selling is good,
shame.
Right? And so it's so eye-opening to me because their biggest issue with us is not actually that we're fat. It's that we're not ashamed to be fat. It's that they can't.
I think their biggest issue isn't that you're not ashamed to be fat. I think their biggest issue is that you're promoting that obesity is a good thing. When you're like, we're fat people, and then you give a list of like things that you view as positive, that seems to be painting obesity in a positive light, which a lot of people have an issue with. And this, they don't care because they have this set narrative in their head that fat is bad. I would also like to spin that and say that you view fat as good, and you're kind of pushing that, and you're pushing a victim narrative and stuff. So you kind of have a set narrative in your head as well. I'm not saying that they don't. They absolutely do, and I probably do myself. I try to be open, but let's face it, we all have these certain ideas in our heads that, you know, isn't necessarily going to change with the conversation. Um, but this is kind of a two-way thing. Like, both of you are guilty of this, you know?
Make us hate ourselves. And trust me, I wasted a lot of my life hating myself and thinking I could hate myself smaller, I could hate myself happier, all of these things. And now that I've done the work to realize, like,
I would also like to put in that I think for most people, they don't necessarily want you to hate yourself. I certainly don't want you to hate yourself. I don't want any of these people, these fat acceptance people, to hate themselves. I just want them to acknowledge that their lifestyle, while they are welcome to choose it, doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing. Like it's this it I would have the same position of people that promote smoking as a good thing and it makes you look cool and it helps you lose weight and all of that shit. If you promote smoking in that way, I would have a problem with that too. I do have a problem with that. I have a problem with people stating that anything that is inherently harmful is a good thing. Like, I fairly regularly um, take edibles. I'm under no delusion that taking edibles on a regular basis is a good thing. Like, I know it's not necessarily a good thing. I don't think it's as damaging as alcohol, but that I could 100% be wrong with that, and I'm welcome to being wrong. But overall, will I change what I do? Probably not. I like taking edibles on the weekends. I do. And it's my right to do so. Is it the healthiest thing in the world? No. And I can recognize that it's not a healthy thing to do. But I don't think that but it's a risk I'm willing to take for what I get from it. I like it. I like that I can shut my brain off at night, especially on a Friday night when I'm still thinking about everything that I'll need to do the next week. It just shuts my brain off and allows me to kind of reset for the weekend to where I can actually enjoy my weekend. It has a mental health benefit to me for to an extent. Is that healthy? No. You should not rely on drugs for your mental health. But it's nonetheless a choice that I choose to make and I continue to make. I am not defending this. I am not saying that it is a good thing. I am not saying that it's something that people should strive for. I'm not saying it's something people should try. I recognize that this is kind of my unhealthy habit and I'm okay with it. No one is 100% healthy 100% of the time. And that goes for you guys. I'm not saying that you guys don't do healthy behaviors, but you can't say that being fat is healthy. If you're like, you know what? I don't like focusing on my weight. It made me feel really bad, and I don't want to focus on this anymore. I want to focus on other things in my life. I mean, fair play. Fair play. Like you don't want to do that. That's fine. That's a choice that you're making. This is your unhealthy habit that you're willing to uphold in your life. But then don't say that you're the healthiest you've ever been. Don't say that all dieting is inherently horrible. Don't say that um if you're pointing out that my obesity is unhealthy, then you want me to hate myself. People don't want you to hate yourself. We just want the acknowledgement that yes, you're making poor health choices, and that's your choice to make.
I can already grab happiness. I don't have to wait until I'm in a different body. I don't have to wait until I'm in a different status in life, like whatever. I don't have to wait for the wait. That I can be happy right now. There are people both outside of our community and unfortunately, I don't want to necessarily say in our community because I don't think that they see themselves that way. Um, but there are people of all shapes and sizes who don't agree with us, that feel that we should be ashamed, and that we shouldn't be promoting any kind of joy, because what they see is, oh, you're just promoting being fat. You want people to be fat. We just want people to be happy.
It's like you're not allowed. It's not the same. But one of the things I thought about is like when people get mad, there's like a gay couple on TV, like, oh, they're shoving it in our faces, you know. And I'm like, it's almost like we're shoving our fatness in their faces.
It's like,
if we hid away, if we did not put ourselves out there, it'd be okay.
Yeah,
But because we dare,
exactly.
No, that
to
wouldn't
be
be okay
public.
either.
How-
Because then
Okay, that goes the same. Oh my god, this goes the same for literally anything. Religion, politics, even fitness influencers will catch flack on why are you doing this, you're promoting unhealthy behaviors, blah blah blah. Depending on how they do it, especially, there are going to be fans and there's going to be haters. That is always the way it's going to be. Every single time. You will not be barring the most bland content and animal videos. Like, barring those things, and even animal videos, I guess, kind of falls under bland content. You will have haters that think that what you're doing is fucking wrong and stupid. You will. And then you'll also always have people that aren't necessarily haters, but that still disagree with you. You're not. I feel like so many in the fat acceptance movement want unwavering support across the board, never having to deal with dissenting opinions and then crying victimhood when those dissenting opinions surface. Of course, there are people that take it too far. I'm not saying that they're not, but I think the fat acceptance group as a whole casts a wide net for a hater. And that's what fucking drives me nuts.
Why aren't you out trying to lose the weight? Why aren't you
Sure.
trying to do anything?
But
then if you also try and do those things,
there's no pleasing
then it's
them.
pointing and laughing and whatever else.
Yeah.
There's no winning. Period.
So that's where I got to the I guess the climax for me was the emotional, just like of like everything. And then I also did I felt really bad because I sent Rebecca the link in our group chat, and I am extremely protective of you.
I was gonna
and we
speak
know
to
that. And we'll talk about that, and I'll let you talk about that. But then I was very hard on myself because yes, Rebecca and I have been doing this for a while, so we're used to being a little bit more in the public eye, I guess, or at least in the internet's public eye. I don't know. And we also know that Maria, even being, you know, sunshine and rainbow, she has this white hot rage behind those pretty eyes of hers, and like we know that beyond a shadow of a doubt, like she will hurt someone. I think we all just have this like very much like Alyssa's so new to this and so new to the internet, and like we must protect her at all costs. So I was very much like, oh my god, I have failed as your protector.
Oh.
I'm so sorry.
No, I mean, for me, I would definitely want to, like, speaking to the experience, right? Answering Rebecca's original question. The first thing I wanted to say was, I am surrounded by 3 warriors who, at the slightest negative comment, have been jumping in and deleting and trolling and responding, and I very much have felt protected from a majority of it. I think, too, you know, for me, seeing an Instagram comment of someone telling me that, like, I'm fat or and I'm ugly, I'm gonna die, and all, I'm like, oh, okay. Right? Someone was like, what does your doctor think of this? And I was like, want me to add her? Like, shout out Dr. Everett, like, she's my girl. You know? Like, me and her are Instagram friends. I'll tag her in right now. Ask her yourself, you know? So I think there was a level to those where I was like, you have no effect, right? It's a delete and move on. The day the 26-minute video came out, genius idea, by the way. I don't know if I gave everyone enough credit, but the girls had created a second group chat. It was Maria.
Idea.
I love it. Maria created a second group chat called FFF Frustrations, and it's for the 4 Fab Fatties Frustrations. And it was the place where if negative comment came out and you needed to rage about it, talk about it, it was in that group chat, so it wasn't popping up in the main group. Now, what an amazing concept. And if I would have taken more than 5 seconds to just open it up when I was at work and read the group chat backwards, I would have understood the YouTube link I was clicking on. But alas, I am dyslexic, and for some reason... I like to read backwards too.
And we love that about you.
I opened the link at work and I watched until he got to me. I let him say a couple things about me and I said, I think we're done here. And as I close out the link, I had a couple
And that's the smart thing to do. You watch it, and then when it starts to get too much for you, you leave. That's the way to handle it. That is the way to handle it. You can't stop someone from having an opinion on you. And if it is too personal for you and you aren't able to handle it, you click off. I think she handled that wonderfully. That's what you do. If it's too much for you, you bail. That's the best way to handle the internet.
coworkers walking down the hallway, and they looked at me, and I just went, someone just posted a 26-minute video just fat shaming us. And it must have been what I said, how I said it, but all of us just stood there with our jaws open and like at a complete loss of words. We just stood there in silence. Like, they did not know what to say. I did not know what to say. Frankly, I don't know why I shared it. I just was literally like in a state of shock. We processed it a little bit together, and I think one of the girls said, you're doing something right if you're already having people holler like that. And I said, ooh, I like that. I'm going to hold on to it. So I ended up leaving work just to give myself some time and space. I created the video that we uploaded to our page, my little reaction. And I think by Friday morning I had therapy, and I talked about it in therapy. And I think by the time I had processed it, I was like, I already gave this man enough time, right? Like, I think what helped me move on.
I think that's an excellent way to handle it. I don't really understand the shock that someone would make, but I've been chronically online for years. So I guess for me, it's just, yeah, that might happen. That might happen. It is what it is. And you just kind of move forward from there. The shock kind of surprises me, but if she's fairly new to this sort of realm of the internet, that's fine. She has her reaction. I think she handled that pretty well. She didn't engage with it again. She went to therapy, which, if she needed that, to help her process what was being said about her, good on her. And from the sound of it, she's not going to go back to that video. Again, good on her. I think so far she seems like the most emotionally intelligent and mature of the group in handling this. I I have zero negative things to say about her for how she is engaging with this, because I think that she's right on the money on how to handle when you get dissenting opinions and or hate on the internet.
On so quickly from it was the fact that it was just lies, right? Like, even down to like the leftovers Maria were carrying in that video, we staged it. She carried all of our leftovers so she could say we're fat girls. Of course we order enough to have leftovers. She carried our leftovers.
Not only that, but they
Okay, you say it was how the hell are we supposed to know? I'm sorry, that's such a fucking dumb argument. And you're like, it's not even true. He's saying that she's gonna eat all this. It was all of our leftovers. How the hell was he supposed to know that? You guys say we're fat girls. Of course we order enough for leftovers, and she has this. Like, I don't understand how you're upset by his interpretation of that. He interpreted it the way you presented it. That you can ignore. You're like, we staged that. How the hell do we know that you staged that? That's such a fucking bonkers complaint. That it's outright lies. He's saying all this, and we staged that. So it's not lies. He's not lying. You guys are the ones that presented something disproportionate to how it actually is, and then are upset with how it is interpreted that way that you presented it. That is so fucking dumb. Oh my god, this is the thing that's actually irritating the shit out of me a little bit. I don't understand how you can play victim and say that people are lying when they are accurately interpreting what you put forth. You say it's staged. Fine. How the hell was anyone supposed to know that? You are big women. You guys have many in the fat acceptance community have openly said that straight size people don't understand like plus sizes and how much someone is determined to eat or something, or what clothes will fit a person that is much larger, because we don't have that like scope. I'm not even straight size, but we don't have that. I'm like a size 14, so I'm still within their like normal size, like, yeah, normal size is straight size, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And so I'm like, oh, that might fit. No, because they're actually a size 26 or something, and I don't have much of a frame of reference for how big that is. Uh, so of course, when this much larger woman is carrying a mountain of food, yeah, we think that she's like, oh, of course we get enough for leftovers. I'm thinking she is eating at least half of that. Or if she's taking those leftovers home, I'm guessing that she ordered twice as much. That would be my guess. I don't understand how you are upset that how it is interpreted when you staged it that way. I'm sorry. Perhaps I'm wrong to say this, but I feel like you don't have any fucking right to be upset that people interpreted it that way when you presented it that way. If you don't want people to talk about, oh my god, look at how much food she has, look at how much she's eating, then don't give one person all of the leftovers as though she clearly ate more food on top of that or will be eating at least half of that food. That's so fucking stupid.
Didn't care what was in the box.
No, I know.
What's in the box?
Right? No, they acted like it was like full meals too, and I'm like, girl, there was one of mine just had some French fries. Like,
Literally, somebody commented.
Depending on the size of the containers, though, how the hell are we supposed to know that? That's why they're saying what's inside. How much is inside? Are these all full meals? Are they leftovers? And if this is the leftovers, how much is in each container? Because you would think that at least all but one of those containers was full to the brim. Because I don't know about you, but if I have a container of food, I'm gonna pack the food in there to waste less container. Like, I don't understand how you guys can be so upset when you presented it this way.
You know those aren't leftovers. She's gonna have that for dinner.
That's what leftovers are. They're for later.
I don't think you know how leftovers work.
no, literally though. And then he said about me like that of course I'm learning to honor my hunger cues, and he's like, hunger cues? What do you think? You ate yourself to being this fat. And I just said, Lord, if you knew me and my doctors, they would not agree.
And that's where I don't mean to interrupt you, but and that's where I'm struggling even while we're talking through this, because we still are feeling like we have to explain ourselves.
Yeah, you're
we
so
have to
right.
explain that we gave Maria all of our leftover boxes. We have to explain.
Yes, you do have to explain. You do have to explain whether you realize it or not. You fed into the fat stereotypes and then were upset that people made the fat stereotypes. So yes, you do have to explain if that's not what you meant. Welcome to the fucking internet. Oh my god. I'm trying not to go off the rails here. This is just I don't understand how they don't understand how they were basically the arbiters of their own issues in a lot of ways. Like, I'm not saying that everything that they did deserve necessarily comment on, but people are allowed to comment on everything they did. But not only that, but you guys are so upset that people read it as she has all this food to eat when you purposefully gave her all of the leftovers. And this whole thing about, oh, she's gonna eat it later, and you're like, that's what leftovers are for. For some people, yes, but for a lot of people, like for me personally, if I eat a huge meal, especially in the middle of the day, and I take leftovers home, that's probably going to be my lunch for the following day because I'm not going to get hungry again. And if I do get hungry again, I don't necessarily want a lot of those, like the full amount of leftovers. I will have like a piece of fruit or something lighter. That's partially because of my own issue. I get heartburn really bad. So in general, I try not to eat like 4 to 5 hours before bed because I will literally have heartburn and can't sleep that way. Like it's fucking awful. Anyway, for plenty of people, if they eat a big meal out to the point where they have leftovers to take home from a restaurant, that might be saved for the next day. It kind of depends on how late they ate. That's not necessarily that's a I would say they're neither one is wrong. It's just a different interpretation of what leftovers are for, and how much food was eaten to warrant those leftovers. That's its own thing. I don't think that was necessarily wrong in either interpretation.
That when Alyssa said she's learning to honor her hunger cues, I'm sorry, trigger warning, but Alyssa is literally in eating disorder recovery. Like, she is truly learning that she has to eat, that she needs to eat 3 meals a day. Like, she needs to eat more. And so, but the fact is that it's sad that we're sitting here talking to you guys who we know are not those people, but we're still defending ourselves because we can get riled up by this. This can affect us.
You are defending yourselves because you guys put something out on the internet that was not read the way that you wanted it to be read. And when it's pointed out to you how you fucking staged it to for people to come to a conclusion, and I genuinely don't think that they realize that because they did not think this through very well. But now they have surprise Pikachu face that people interpreted it the way they presented it, which is that fat women eat a lot. And they're upset that they now have to go back and explain what they actually did. I'm sorry, no, this is not everyone else's fault. This is not everyone else being fat phobic. This is not, you presented it this way. You engaged with the stereotype. You did. This is on you. This is on you.
And we don't want to sit here and pretend like it can't.
I have a question.
Yeah.
We definitely have talked about feelings in the response, but what I think I would like to know now that it has happened and we processed as a group last night and we're talking through it now. Did you learn anything from this happening? Did it change anything for you? Do you feel different about what we're doing based off of what happened?
It made me just want to do it 10 times more. It did. Because I don't... This for me is not just...
If it made you want to do it 10 times more, that's fine. If you really think that you're fighting something, that's fine. But you have to realize that there are people that are going to disagree with you, and no matter how much you scream or how much you try to, in your words, advocate for yourself, there's always going to be people that think that you're full of shit. There's always going to be people that think that you are the fat stereotype, especially when you present it that way. I'm sorry. Just from what we've heard, I'm like, y'all aren't victims. You made some poor choices that did not pan out the way you thought it would. And for that, you have my sympathy, because that's kind of like a first time rodeo on the internet sort of thing to happen. And there's a very good chance I'm working on some new stuff for from my 2 alternate channels. And I may very well end up with something like that. I put something out there, it's not received the way I thought it would be, and I end up having to rethink how I present things on the internet. There's a few things on my one of my other channels where I really want to work on trying to get what I would call La Sierra Fit. And La Sierra was this fitness thing. I think we did some coverage on it on this channel, but from the 1960s, and you can still find the handbook online with like the minimums. I have no idea if I will ever get there, but it's a nice goal to have, and so I kind of wanted to have like a series where I do that. That being said, I'm kind of uncomfortable filming myself in my workout gear because I don't normally wear like skin tight anything, but my leggings are like very form fitting, of course, because they're leggings. And I have some reservations about that because I am hesitant to put myself in a situation where people could comment on my body. It makes me a little uncomfortable. So I am currently figuring out ways to navigate that. Right now, the big thing that I've seen is people putting like looser fitting shorts over their leggings, and I think that would make me feel better. It's just the kind of hip, butt, pelvis area that I don't necessarily want to be put on film. So I'm figuring out my own way around that. So what I'm trying to get to is that there's going to be things that you don't realize the reaction that you're going to get for them. And for that shock of getting those reactions, you do have my sympathy, because that is kind of a first time rodeo thing where when you don't know what to expect from the internet, you are going to be shocked by the level of reaction that you're going to get. For that, you have my sympathy, but to play victim over it, instead of realizing, wow, we didn't realize what we were in for, that's where I start to like lose sympathy.
I have a podcast with my friends and show people that fat people can have fun and happy lives too. This to me is so much bigger than that, and this to me is, I want to show everybody that fat people are human beings too, and we deserve the common decency and respect that everybody else seems to get, and that for some reason it is still socially acceptable to publicly mock and ridicule and say the most disgusting things about fat people, and it's okay. And you can just show up at your job the next day. You can show up at your family gatherings. You can have a YouTube channel and make money off of it. And
Like, I genuinely, what horrible thing? Because saying horrible things has such a broad reach, and I've heard people say that people are saying horrible things when they're like, just eat less to lose weight, and like that's something really horrible to say, apparently. So, and this whole thing, it's like you can say this on your and then show up to your job the next day, or show up to your family gathering. Yeah, this is almost feels like a self-centeredness issue. What people say about some random people on the internet does not necessarily stay with them. It stays with you because it's about you. But you are not a prominent figure in anyone's life but your own, really. You are a side character among your friends and a no-name character to everyone else. In most people's if most people's lives were a book and they watched and they commented on yours, it would be maybe a throwaway sentence where you are not named. So it's one of those things where it's like, yes, callousness on the internet is kind of an issue. I'm not going to say that it's not. But at the same time, to expect people to just hold, I really feel like this boils down to they expect unwavering, entirely wholly just support from people, and when they don't get that, they feel victimized. That's the general vibe that I get from them. And that's not the way life works. That's not the way the internet works. And you're gonna have to learn how to deal with a certain level of criticism and be okay.
I think that's disgusting. And for me, it just makes me want to do this 10 times more and keep going. And that's making my fire burn brighter, because this can't be okay anymore. It can't. We deserve, I'm so sorry. We deserve every common decency, every human decency.
No one's saying that you don't. But what you're looking for isn't common decency, isn't human decency. What you are looking for is for everyone to agree with you or to not comment on how they disagree with you. That is what you're looking for, across the board support, which you are not going to get. It's the internet. You can 100% post things out there, but that doesn't mean that people owe you kind comments. That doesn't mean people owe you agreeing with you. That doesn't mean people owe you that, oh wow, you've opened my eyes. You guys are putting something out there that people are going to disagree with. This isn't bland content, which means inherently people are going to disagree with it, and there's going to always be a very vocal minority that get really fired up about it.
As everybody else.
And I think the problem is that common decency and everything is given freely to them, and it constantly feels like we have to earn it.
Yeah.
My god, victimization, self-victimization is so fucking strong in this group. They get human decency and we have to earn it. Bitch, everyone has to, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, everyone has to fight for a certain level of treatment. In some aspect or form, or there's just always some group that does not like you. There is some group that does not see you as one of them. As a woman that has had many male dominate interests that are male dominated, I can't fucking tell you how many times I had to prove my cred in especially gaming spheres. I can't tell you how many times GameStop employees quizzed me at the register to gauge how much of a gamer I really was. Or at fucking Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments when I was fucking 12 and people were drilling me on what was safe, like not safe, but what certain cards did, or something about the anime, or like it's just it's not a matter of it being right or wrong, but you will always be the outsider in it, in one group, in some aspect or form in your life. You will always be an outsider. There is not everywhere, and I'm not saying that you always have to deal with being an outsider, but there are, if you are in the minority of the general demographic of what you're entering into, or your views are in the minority of the general topic that you're speaking on, you have to expect a certain amount of people to disagree with you, to test you, and just to overall give you like a harder time. Eventually, in my 20s, I got sick. I had earned like a $25 GameStop gift card. I bought something, um, I bought this cheap ass game since it was on sale and it was a free game and my little gift card voucher thing was going to expire. And the guy at the register was quizzing me on the difference between Western RPGs and JRPGs. And I was just, there's something about that moment that I just was so over it. And I didn't really pursue much in the gaming sphere for a while after that just because I was kind of sick of it. And you get to those points. You get to those points where you're like, I'm so fucking tired of proving myself every time I walk in a room. Just as you guys are like, I'm so tired of proving that I am fat and happy or that fat isn't a bad thing every time I enter a room. Welcome to being in the minority of opinions or the minority of a demographic. This is I mean, at least for you, in general, like I know they love to say that, people don't show them basic human decency or stuff. You can't convince me that they are as discriminated against as the disabled, the people of color, or trans people. Like you're just not, just like if you do face discrimination, it's certainly not in the same level that those who are like systemically discriminated against have to deal with. You got backlash for something that you posted online. Welcome to the internet. And we have about 3 minutes left of this part. This is going to be a 3-part reaction. So I have about 3 minutes left, and then I'm going to talk about some other stuff.
Yeah.
That's not right.
Yeah. I think one of the things for me is, what brings me fulfillment, what makes me feel good about myself, and what makes me feel good about my life, what makes me feel like I'm living a life well lived, is being a place of positivity, support, openness, acceptance. And it made me think about the community he's cultivating and how threatening our community is to people.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me just remember again that, like, sometimes I forget that we do face, I mean, I know we faced bias and such, but most people in my daily life are pretty nice to me. So sometimes I forget, how strong these feelings are because a lot of people aren't brave enough to say it to our face, right?
You're right, people do treat you pretty well in your everyday life because the behaviors are different. And here's my question about that. You say people treat you better in everyday life and that you sometimes get surprised at how strongly people feel on the internet. Are you voicing the same level of opinions in your everyday life? Because something tells me that you're not. Because in general, especially in professional settings and a lot of times even in family settings, you kind of curb your opinions so as to keep the peace. But on the internet, you're kind of in your room, you're kind of in your own little space, in your own little la la land, and then you just kind of put it out there, and then you get the reaction. You don't get an immediate feedback the way you do in person to person interaction. So, my question is for you. If you feel like people treat you better in your everyday life than they do on the internet, are you voicing the same opinions with the same level of vigor that you do on the internet? I don't. I know I don't. I know I don't say certain things in personal or even family settings. Like I think it's pretty rare for someone to show their complete self, like 100% their complete entire being in any given setting because you know your audience. I'm not going to talk about that acceptance shit at work. I don't know what other people's opinions are, and I don't want this to become a potential HR issue because someone thinks I'm personally attacking them just because I'm anti-fat acceptance. Would that happen? I don't fucking know, and I don't really care. I'm not gonna risk it, and I'm not gonna voice my opinions in that way. Most especially because it's not really relevant to the atmosphere. There is zero reason for me to talk about fat acceptance stuff in my place of work. My mom has gone down very much back to her Catholic roots and uh, back into the whole Christian faith sort of stuff. Not my thing. And actually, I watch Hell of a Boss and Has Been Hotel, which prominently features the different kings of hell, and it's actually kind of gotten me interested in finding out about Lesser Keys of Solomon and those different demons. Would I talk to her about the demon shows that I watch? Fuck no. I don't want to make her uncomfortable. We choose what we talk about with the people around because we know our audience. The internet, it's such a wide audience that you can't really tailor what you say to any given group because other groups could be watching and would still disagree with you. It's just one of the like welcome to humanity, you know?
And then I think, damn, like it is so important to have spaces for us, by us, where we can let down our guard, where we can peacefully exist. And you know, I've done some of that work with Charlotte Plus, with Maria since we started it, but I think I've carved it out for myself, and this podcast is just another way to make it, yes, a place that I can feel safe in and comfortable in, but also give another place for people to land and have these conversations and have these understandings. And that's I feel like I can lay my head down at night feeling really good about how I'm contributing to the world. And that's just, it kind of reiterated that mission for me, if we think about it that way.
I was weirdly inspired, not to take his products and to lose the weight. I think after the emotion settled, and I said, and the shock was big for me, especially because, like, yeah, you guys have large followings, but our Four Fab Fatties Instagram page is like still under 1,000. So it felt like a very large, aggressive reaction for such a small page. And when I sat with that, I said, "Oh, are you feeling uncomfortable? Are you feeling
You mad, bro?
Are you feeling?
We got you feeling big man.
Are you feeling threatened by a 30-second TikTok? I mean, I wonder how you're gonna feel when we start doing more."
Yeah.
So I think a little bit of me was like, "All right, bet. All right, bet. You ready to go play? Let's play. You want to tussle? Let's tussle." Right? Like, you keep going. If that's the platform and that's the life you want to live and that's the message you want to spread, I'll see you at the finish line, bro. Good luck. Good luck.
But let's think about it this way. Like, say when I do die, not at 40,
You could raise your voice there.
and not at 40, I will be so happy to have left a legacy that was filled with love, filled with reminding everyone that they're worthy as they are, that they don't have to change, that they're welcome, they can sit with us. You don't have to be different, you don't have to do anything, you can just be. And I can rest happily knowing that. Like, you think I'm pathetic? Yikes. Like,
Here's a meal.
We're operating on different value systems here.
Frequencies.
No, but really though, we are not spreading a message of hate. For those of you who will listen next week, stay tuned for our Ozempic episode.
All right. So there's actually still like 20 minutes left of this, but we'll finish that in the next part. I'm gonna just leave that there. I would love to hear your opinions on this whole uh, part of the reaction. What do you think of what they've said and all of that? For now, I do want to talk a little bit. What about Squid Game season 2? I binge watched both the first season and the second season. The first season was my second round of watching it because I'd seen it when it first came out. But I wanted to refresh myself, so I watched the full first season and then the second season. And I will say, I was kind of disappointed with season 2. Gi-hoon is not like, I think he feels a little too invincible given that he survived the games, and I understand that he's trying to help people, but like he's going in half cocked. Like seriously. Not only that, but I don't like how much mirroring we're getting. Like, it doesn't even feel like mirroring. It feels like almost a copy paste from season 1 with some of the characters that we get. Like we have the crazy lady, we have the vulnerable couple. Before it was like an actual couple. This time it's a mother and son. We have a girl from North Korea that's trying to find a loved one that's still trapped in North Korea. We have kind of this punk guy that doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. We have um a naive man that doesn't know what he's doing. We have Gi-hoon's friend. We have so many incidents mirror exactly what happened in the first season, and some of it like I get because it's meant to show how the games are very cyclical in their nature and how the similar things happen, but the characters themselves almost feel like a kind of like a Xerox of a Xerox because they're the same, but they're very much distorted versions of what we saw in season 1. Like it's the one thing I will say is that the voting after every game thing is interesting. But it makes me feel less sympathetic towards the players. And I don't know if that's intentional or not, but so many of them come across just greedy now instead of desperate. So I don't know how I feel about that. I last weekend I took a blacksmithing class and I made my first ever knife, which was cool. I really enjoyed that. Um, for manhwa, I don't really think I have much to say. I don't think I have anything to really show you guys. Everything's just been kind of keeping along. And so I don't really have much to add to anything really. Uh, I've been I do have though I do want to talk about a project that I'm doing. So there's this thing it used to be every June, now they've moved it to August. So now like I know it was August this year and it's going to be August next year. And it's basically kind of like a giant craft thrifting event where they get donations from people that have died or people that are doing like moving donations, like they're moving and so they need to get rid of a bunch of their crafting stuff, or people that just are like, you know what, I'm not going to use this, and they donate it. And then this group that sponsors the whole event sells it. Fabric and yarn end up being $2 a pound, and like there's so many deals to get. Everything's really cheap, so I go there and I stock up every year. And all proceeds go to children's sewing camps to sponsor kids that would otherwise not be able to afford these sewing camps, to give children from families that don't make enough to send them to like summer events that those kids can then be part of the summer camps. So all proceeds go to a good cause. So I found a bunch of Hello Kitty fabric, right? I found one that I ended up using as borders along with a panel to have the borders go around, and then enough fabric for backing. And it's very much like summer in the front, winter in the back. Um and it's just a summer quilt, so there's no batting in it. I just sewed it together, and that sort of thing. But in order to quilt it, like I had the option of either sewing it or hand embroidering it. So I chose to hand embroider it, and that was a big fucking mistake. Oh my god, this thing will not end. I get to this point with just about every project where I'm like, I'm ready to be done with this. Why is it not done yet? And I still have so much further to go. I watched through all of season 1 and season 2 of Squid Games, and am I was already partially along with it by that point. I am still like barely a third done with this thing. It is taking me so long. I will never hand embroider another quilt again. Ever. I'm very happy with how it's turning out. Don't get me wrong, I like it. I'm happy with how it's turning out, but my fucking god, this is taking so long. And then on top of it, I accidentally sewed a pin in it to where I have to like open it up to get the pin out of the quilt now. So that's gonna be fucking fun. So yeah, that's just a little bit of my personal life. I've been on vacation this whole past week. I've been enjoying it. I had to take you guys, most of you know, I had to take my dog to get her teeth cleaned. If you saw that community post, she was really mad at me for a couple of days. She feels better though. She feels better. So, and I've been doing a lot of reading. I've been trying to get back into portrait drawing, which I fucking suck at, but having fun. And then I have this other drawing thing involving the Duolingo bird where I want to draw it for like a year, and each drawing gets progressively more unhinged and menacing. So we'll see how far I get with that. Oh, one other thing, and this time I can actually show you guys on screen. So this is something I want to take part in for this coming year, and that is the 52 Weeks of Baking Challenge. And this looks like a really good prompt list. I'm actually really looking forward to it. New year, new recipe. I have a croissant class that I am taking right at the beginning of the year. So that's going to be my new year, new recipe because I've never made croissants before. Great British Bake Off. Someone put a list on there. I'm just going to do one of the easy ones on that one. I'm actually kind of aiming to make most of these pretty easy for myself. Recreated. I was thinking about doing Cinnabon because I've already created a dupe of the cinnamon frosting really well, and I'm just going to make some cinnamon rolls, so I think that'll be fun. Lunar New Year, I'm still figuring out. But if any of you like baking and want to participate in this as well, let me know because I would love to have conversations with you guys about, what are you working on, and maybe we'll see each other on the subreddit. So, okay, I think this video has gone on entirely too long, so I'm going to end it here. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.